Shalom and good day, brothers and sisters. Let me fix this toolbar here. I don't know why it is oversized. Okay. Here, what you see before you is a picture. Okay, I'm trying to move this down so y'all can see. A picture of a DNA structure. And as you see, the title of this video is Algonquian and my DNA. Ouidah, Judah, aka Dahomey. Dahomey. Okay. So I was challenged, y'all, by my mom. And I'm so thankful she challenged me. She wanted me to prove to her that I'm a Jew by blood, but really an Israelite by blood. So she gave me a DNA test. Now, this DNA test do not confirm everything because of the dream that my father has given me and also what my parents told me of my lineage. Because as you see, as I go through some of this information that I'm going to share with you, you have to remember we're still under the European standards. They want to dictate to us, the children of Israel, that they call quote unquote Black Americans, Negroes, colored, mulatto, whatever bywords or proverbs they came up with. But the living word taught me that we all have a nation we come from, and we all have a tribe that we come from. And most of the world is aware of the history that my people has went through, whether they came from the continent of Africa or whether they were indigenous to the land, this land, America, which is Canada, North America, South America, Mexico, and their islands, surrounding islands. Okay, so when you do history, you will learn that our oppressors has changed a lot of things and hidden a lot of things. And unfortunately, this is why my people are labeled by a Crayola color instead of being labeled by their nation and by their tribe. Okay, so I give thanks to the Father because He always confirmed to us who we are first by His word, as well as by His prophets, as well as by history, because we do have some Europeans who wrote books who identify who we were. Also, since the 2024 election, it has come out that in America, United States of America, that most of the nations who have came over here was told to identify as white. A lot of them identify as white, proving unto us or confirm unto us there had to been a code or a hidden code established to identify the children of Israel. Okay, so remember, we're still under the curse. And I want to get that Bible scripture that's in Zechariah. Bear with me, y'all. Hold on. Now, we know we are fulfilling the prophecy that was given by Apostle Paul, for he says in Romans 11, I do want to turn to that to quote it directly. So if you can get your Bibles for me, brothers and sisters, and turn to Romans 11, and I want to read a part um, not at verse 18, but I do want to warn the Gentiles. Do not boast yourself against the natural branches. Paul warned you of that because the natural branches are the children of Israel. For there is a specific prophecy that only pertains to the children of Israel that Apostle Paul identified in Romans 11. Okay, so Apostle Paul give us the mystery that the reason why the natural branches slash the children of Israel was broken off to give the Gentiles an opportunity to be grafted into the olive tree so they can be connected to Yahusha HaMashiach, which means to go in covenant with him, which means to go in marriage with him. Okay? So you was given grace and mercy, Gentiles. Okay? Now, Paul also going to remind you, Gentiles, do not be high-minded, but fear the Most High. Because if he did it to his own people for their unbelieving or unfaithfulness, not believing in his son, it's the same for you. You should fear him because he can break you off. Because we know boasting or a high-minded person or a high-minded person will begin to take on the spirit of pride. Okay, that's 1 John chapter 2. So, Father do not like pride. That's of Satan. Okay, that comes from Satan, who is the father of pride. All right. So, Paul let us know in verse 22 that our Father is a El slash God of goodness and severity, meaning that do not cross him, meaning that do not be prideful, meaning that do not mistreat his holy people. For if he cut them off, he would do the same to you. So just want to mention that. Now we're going to start at verse 23. And they also, if they buy not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Yahuwah is able to graft them in again. So even if they're unbelieving, the Father will have a way to graft them back in. Again, you got to go back to the prophet's writings to understand Hebrews chapter 8. For the Father said through his prophets that he would give them a new heart and a new spirit. So that's how he would be able to graft them in. Okay? For if thou wert cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? So again, Paul is pointing to them, to the Gentiles. If the Father had the power to graft you in to the olive tree, what makes you think that he cannot graft his own people back in to the olive tree? Okay? Verse 25. Now this is very important. You want to highlight this verse. For I will not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery. Okay? Least ye should be wise in your own conceits. So we see a lot of people having their own opinions about Romans 11 when Paul is telling us he do not want us to be ignorant of this mystery, of this revelation. This is why we have so many false doctrines that's dealing with the replacement theory. Even the Jewish people today say that doctrine is incorrect. Like I said, if you're not taught by the Spirit of Yah, which is the Spirit of Yah, which is the Spirit of Yahusha HaMashiach, you will begin to be led by your flesh and develop your own opinion, as Paul says here. Paul goes on to say that blindness in part is happened to Israel. So according to the biblical prophecy, we know the Father put blindness upon the children of Israel. And blindness also means harshness. They have a hard heart. They are very stubborn and they will not listen. Okay? very stubborn, and will not listen. So they are blind. Therefore, they are blind. Okay? Spiritually blind. Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Now, the mystery of that can be found in Luke chapter 21, verse 24. It's talking about until the fullness of the times of the Gentiles, meaning that the Father is going to give them 2 days of his time dealing of the 7-day prophecy. Out of the 7-day prophecy, which is 7,000 years, which is a week of Yah, he's going to give them the 2 days, the latter 2 days of that week. So they are given 2,000 years to come in. Also, in the 2,000-year period, they are ruling. This is why in the Romans time that we use today, which is CE, which is common era, that is the time that we're in. For the Romans say this is the year of our times. Yes, that is correct. This is the year of the Gentiles' time. For the prophet Daniel revealed unto us that the fourth beast is the fourth kingdom, and by doing your research and your studies, you will learn that the fourth kingdom is Rome, and they are represented by iron because Rome has gone in covenant with Satan. They get all their powers from Satan. This is why the beast is red or crimson. Okay. Father also want me to tell you that Rome is Esau. Again, you have to understand the mystery why Jacob, which is the brother of Esau, why Jacob grabbed the heel of his brother. Okay. Prophet Hosea talks about this. Ezra in the Apocrypha also talks about this, letting us know that the fourth kingdom, which is Rome, will come to an end, and the next kingdom to come will be eternal, and Yahusha HaMashiach would take his place as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. That's what a supplanter do. A supplanter is not a thief. You got to stand Torah law. Jacob bought the birthright, fair and square. Esau was unfaithful. He did not call unto the Father for help. Instead, he sold his birthright for a pot of beans, lentils, red lentils. Do y'all see that? So he would be someone, and his lineage would be easily to sold out to Satan. Whereas with Jacob lineage, as you see, they are hard in heart and stubborn. And you can read a history about them in the work of Josephus and how the Gentiles perceive them. Okay? So you will learn that Jacob lineage will not sell out. I'm not talking about individual, I'm talking about as a nation of people. They will not sell out to Satan, meaning that the promised seed could come through that lineage without Satan stopping it. Okay? So we are in that time period. We are in the feet of the Nebuchadnezzar image, where we have the iron mixed with clay. So we are at the end. Verse 26, and so all Israel shall be saved, as is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. Okay? And for the rest of it, you want to read this in your spare time, but I want to keep this video short. Okay? So let us begin. Now, in this video, I may be sharing some copyright material with you, okay? But this is for educational purposes only. It is to edify the body of the Messiah. It is to edify the 144,000. It is to edify the northern kingdom, which is the house of Israel. and it's to edify the son of the kingdom, which is the house of Judah. So let us get right into it. So as I'm gathering more information about my bloodline, and I'm doing more research because y'all, you know, the history of things, and also family tend to hide secrets too, such as if they had a child by another man, um, what else? You know, they just hide things. But as I'm looking at my bloodline, I'm not there to judge them because what I'm learning is some things about history in the past. Women was often mistreated or abused by their husbands. So you have to look at what was going on in that time period. Okay. So I'm not there to judge my lineage. I'm there to get the whole story. Well, not story. I'm here to get the truth and nothing but the truth. Because the truth shall set us free. And by knowing the truth, I can break generation curses. Which remind me of this. I did not give y'all the scripture to show that we are still, that the children of Israel is still under a curse until our deliverer come. That's in Zechariah chapter 8. Thank you, Father, for reminding me. Because y'all, I'm going through menopause and that's one of the symptoms I deal with. Forgetting things. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm in the OT now, Old Covenant. Getting close to Zechariah. All right. Going to chapter 8. And it's in Zechariah chapter 8. For the living word says this, and it shall come to pass that as ye were a curse among the heathen, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so will I save you, and ye shall be a blessing. Fear not, but let your hands be strong. Okay? So that will show you why we are still the tail and not the head, and why we are going through racism, oppression, and vexation by our oppressors. And now we understand why the Europeans view us as the way they do, as well as the other nations and tribes in the earth. But there's a curse upon us, which shall be removed. Okay, let's get this up higher. So the title of this word today is Algonquian and my DNA. Ouidah, known as Judah, aka Dahomey, Dahomey, Dahomey. Forgive my tongue, y'all. So I still holding on to what the Father told me in my dreams. I received two dreams letting me know of my lineage too. And this is dealing with my grandparents' home on my mother's side. So that's the maternal side. I'm also doing research on my father's side, which is paternal. Okay. So on my mother's side, the dreams are relating to Northern Kingdom. Again, what I've been told, like my great great grandmother is Cherokee. According to the dream, we have kinship to the Algonquian. These are the indigenous people of the Americas, of the New World that met the European settlers or the colonizers and who helped them to survive. And for their work of goodness, they slaughtered them. Okay, so this is why I don't partake in Thanksgiving. Okay, and then we have my DNA that shows something special about my bloodline, and you already got a little hint, but let's go a little deeper. So first, let me start with the Argonian thing. Now, let me give you the definition of DNA. Now, the picture that you saw came from this um, site, legendbio.com. Okay. And the particular tab you can find it under, you have to go to case and then you go to study. Far as the company's name, it is Infinia TM DNA synthesis hyphen cell hyphen free linear DNA synthesis. Okay. Now the definition of DNA, this is the boring part, so bear with me. Now, DNA is abbreviated term for this following word. Deoxyribonucleic. Deoxyribonucleic. It. I mean, it. Excuse my tongue, y'all. I just swallowed that word. Acid. Okay. And DNA is an organic chemical that contains genetic information and instructions for protein synthesis. So basically, when it says organic, it is a living thing because when we go back to Genesis, it is our Father Yahuwah who created us from Adamah, that is pure virgin red clay. And when you look at the color of it, it has a reddish brown hue. And you can see this hue in my people for those who study about makeup and skin undertone. Okay. Also, when you look at a heifer, it also, or I'm sorry, when you look at a red heifer, it also bears the reddish brown hue. Okay. This definition goes on to say it is found in most cells of every organism. So everything that the Father created, it is found in most cells. So Father is telling me to bring you back to the picture because as we see it in the intertwining of the DNA, it will remind you of an X, right? X stands for Tav, T-A-V, meaning covenant, to join two things. As we see these two linear lines are joined, right? We also see the meaning of it is ownership, the end or the last, and the number that the Hebrew letter X or cross represent 400. Hint, Genesis 15. This is why we can see that the mother bear the X, and then Father want me to take you further. We also have what? Y chromosomes. The Y stands for Yahuwah, for his name begins with a Y, and he is what? Our husband, our father, our provider, our protector. I can go on and on. So this is why we see why the male carries that Y, for the male bear the image of him, and the female bear the image of wisdom. I done gave y'all a mystery. So go back and read your Proverbs. Go back and read the Apocrypha, which is the Song of Wisdom. Also, go and read the Gospel because the Messiah talks about wisdom. He says that wisdom is justified by her children. So again, we see what is done in heaven is also done in the earth. It's also down to the micro level, the micro or smallest level that is even seen in our DNA. Okay. Like I said. Oh, and if you want to block out this part of it, you can see a Y here that forms or X. Okay. This is something just to think about. Okay, now back to the definition. Um, DNA is a key part of reproduction in which genetic um, heredity, heredity or heritage, yeah, heredity. Whew, forgive me, y'all. I finally got it out. Heredity. occurs through the passing down of DNA from parent or parents to offspring. So when I look at my DNA, it shows me the components I received from my mother and the components I received from my dad or my father, okay? My earthly mother and my earthly father. Researchers refer to DNA found in the cell nucleus as nuclear DNA, and an organism complete set of nuclear DNA is called its genome. Humans and other complex organisms also have a small amount of DNA in cell structures known as mitochondria. Okay, mitochondria. So I just want to give you a basic definition of it. Just in case to make sure I cover my cells with my right of the fair use notice. Let me present that fully so we have it. Okay. So I don't want to go with that part yet, dealing with my DNA yet. We first would go with the what the Father showed me in my dreams. There was two dreams he gave me. So in the past, I shared with y'all about the meaning of Winnebago. You can check that video out. But this term, Winnebago, led me to the origin of Winnebago. The origin of this word comes from Algonquian. Okay? So that's where Winnebago comes from. And it says literary person of the Shalom family. And as you see, we're having some technical difficulties. For some reason, the volume was not being recorded. So we had to start off from where we pecked, from where we left off. So let's get right into it. Let me first fix this toolbar here that y'all see. Okay. Now let's go back to the screen on Winnebago. So basically, I was giving you the meaning of Algonquian, and it says that Algonquian literally person of dirty water, referring to the muddy Fox River. Okay, so now we're going to read some historical things about the Algonquians. So this comes from Google AI overview. Let me see, can I move this over here? For it says the following. Algonquian refers to a group of indigenous peoples of North America who speak Algonquian languages. They was once prominent in the Atlantic Coast region and around the Great Lakes. Culture and history. The Algonquian were one of the largest groups of Native Americans in North America. They was the first people the English encountered during their initial colonizations attempts at Roanoke Island. So Roanoke Island is located in the North Carolina state on the coast, which is my home state. Some Algonquian became friends with the English, while others fought against the colonization of their homeland. The Algonquian used sharpened wooden poles for spearfishing and bows and arrows for hunting. And as I'm reading this, the Father is bringing to my mind because I have just learned there is an organization of them, and they do hold uh, powwows and other certain festivals, and they can be found on the coast of North Carolina, what we call in the beach area. So I thought that was interesting. Like I said, I'm still digging up more information about them and getting some more history. Okay. Language. The Algonquian languages are a family of languages spoken by indigenous peoples of eastern and central North America. The Algonquian languages are independent of one another and have complex but regular word stress. Notable Algonquian peoples, such as, take this time now to pause your screen, for I cannot say these names of the tribes of the Algonquian. Okay. And then it said other uses of the term Algonquian. A 2013 Canadian film has that term, as well as an imprint or Workman Publishing Company. And lastly, a fictional island in the video game Grand Theft Auto 4. And again, to let you know we're in the Roman Kingdom, we see these Roman numerals that we are using today. So take this time now to pause your screen to read the other details that you see to your left from what AI is quoting from. Okay. Now we're going to look at our Grodian in North Carolina. This is from the AI overview. The Algonquian was a group of North Americans who lived in North Carolina before European colonization. They were the southernmost speakers of the Algonquian language. History. Archaeological evidence suggests the Algonquian arrived in North Carolina around 9500 to 8000 BC. That's what they estimate. But for those who have the 1611, you will learn when they came over here, okay, as well as in the Old Testament. And I'm talking about Northern Kingdom, the lost tribes. Another proof that my people came over here, there is a stone that has Paleo Hebrew written on it, and the writings pertain to the Ten Commandments. And there's also other historical Hebrew artifacts over here in what my people call Turner Island or Osterwith, which means another land. So there's evidence to prove that the 10 lost tribes came over here. Again, it has to fulfill the prophecy of what Jeremiah gave us in chapter 16. For Yahuwah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, will not be known as the God/El to deliver his people out of ancient Egypt, but soon he will become known as the God/El that deliver his people from the north, and that is your North America. Okay. They live on Roanoke Island, the Barrier Islands, and the mainland of North Carolina. The Algonquian were the first people the English met during the first colonization's attempts at Roanoke Island. The Carolina Algonquian language is now extinct. Tribes. The Roanoke Indians and the Croatan Indians, called Hatteras after 1701, were two nations of the Algonquian speaking people of North Carolina. The Secotan tribe were an Algonquian tribe whose domain extended from the Albemarle Sound to lower Pamlico River. Culture. They live in strong houses made of wood, mud, and reeds. They had games, governments, songs, stories, and strong families. As I'm just reading you now, just a brief history of my people, you see that they was not portrayed correctly by the Europeans. They often like to classify them as savages, but they are not savages. Remember, they had the divine government that was given unto the children of Israel. And there's many books, and I even got one of the books by a European that confirmed that the Northern Kingdom came over here to North America, as well as you got South America. You have Canada, you have Mexico, and their surrounding islands. So it's much proof that the 10 lost tribes are over here. And what I think is so interesting that my people had divine knowledge to call the shape of America Turtle Island. Yeah, you had to ask yourself, how did they know these sacred things? They also call this land Osiris, which means another land, which fulfilled the prophecy that's in the book of Deuteronomy, how Ephraim will push his people to the end of the world. Because this is known as what? The New World. Like I said, it's too much evidence, there's too much scriptures that show that my people were over here way before Columbus came, way before the Europeans came. You see, also going to say before contact with Europeans, most Algonquian settlements lived by hunting and fishing. Loan words. Many Eastern Algonquian loan words have survived by being absorbed into the English language, including Muscatensin, moose, opossum, papoose, pecan or pecan, raccoon, skunk, squash, squaw, and wigwam. So that's very interesting. Take this time to pause your screen. Now you get understanding why I do not partake in the festival that they call Thanksgiving, because in return of my people kindness, they pay them back by killing them. Okay? Now we're going to get understanding of what I shared in the video dealing with looking at the Negro National Anthem. I talked briefly in that video about what they call quote and unquote the $5 Indian. This comes from ictnews.org site. Take this time to pause your screen to get that link. All right. And the title of this article is Paying to Play Indian, the Dar Roads and the Legacy of $5 Indians. Now, there is a book that was published years ago, and I think it deals with Promised Land. And in that book, it talks about the Israelites who were in this land as well as other tribes who later on came over to this land. Because when you read the prophet's writing through the high priest Ezra, you will learn that the Israelites came to a land where mankind never dwelt. So they was like before the other came over here. And I'm trying to find, oh yeah, hold on y'all, I'm trying to find one thing. I'm seeing, can I pull up that book name? But I do know it's called The Promised Land. Today, that book is very expensive to buy because it has too much information that will reveal where the lost tribe of the children of Israel are. And I'm going to try to pull it up to get you that information. Just bear with me. As I'm doing that, let me read you this title. It says, paying a commissioner $5 could get an opportunistic white person on the Dawn Roads 125 years ago, which still causes problems for tribes today. This is by Aliyah Landry. It was updated on September the 13th in 2018 AD, and the original was written in March the 21st in 2017 AD. Okay, almost there. Well, let me read these first couple of paragraphs. Okay, it may be fashionable to play Indian now, but it was also trendy 125 years ago when people paid $5 apiece for falsified documents declaring them native on the Dawn's Road. These so-called $5 Indians paid government agents under the table in order to reap the benefits that came with having Indian blood. Many white men with an appetite for land. $5 Indians paid to register on the Dawn Roads, earning fraudulent enrollment in tribes along with benefits inherited by generations to come. So what this has done, what has happened 125 years ago is still affecting today. So we got a lot of false people claiming false things. Okay. Even some of my people identity have been stripped of them and they was made to assimilate. In other words, no longer look like the indigenous people of this land, no longer talk like the indigenous people of this land. They had to assimilate so they don't look like the indigenous people. They look like their fellow brethren that was brought from the continent of Africa. Because when you do your research, you're going to learn that when the Europeans came over here, they saw melanated people, people whose skin was of pigments of brown or black. This is the history that they would not give unto you. And it's something. And there's some more stuff that's being uncovered that has been hidden from the world and from my people too. And it's coming out every day. Let me see here. Can I pull it up this way? Okay, can't put it up that way. So I have to go to the home page. Now I'm going to read the next paragraph. There were opportunist white men who wanted access to land or food rations, said Gregory Smithers, associate professor of history at Virginia Commonwealth University. These were people who were more than happy to exploit the Dawes Commission, and government agents for $5 were willing to turn a blind eye to the graft and corruption. Okay. Let me see how to get to this one. Okay. Next paragraph. The Dawn Commission established in 1893 to enforce the General Allotment Act of 1887, or what you call the Dawns Act, was charged with convincing tribes to cede their land to the United States and divide remaining land into individual allotments. The commission also required Indians to claim membership in only one tribe and register on the Dawns rolls, what the government meant to be a definitive record of individuals with Indian blood. So that's their way to keep up who was the Indians. That's what the government wanted to do. I want to say who was the indigenous peoples. The Curtis Act, passed in 1893, target the 5 civilized tribes, which are Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole, forcing them to accept allotments and register on the Dawes rolls. The two acts, which came during a period of murky social context after the Civil War, when white and black men were intermarrying with Native American women, aimed to help the government keep track of quote unquote real Indians, while accelerating efforts to assimilate Indian people into white culture, Smither said. So that's proof unto you how some of my people lost their identity. And it's a shame that we have to now follow the standards of European to say who we are. And it's sad. Okay. It is really sad, y'all. Okay, I'm trying to see where to go to. Okay, let me keep going. By 1865, African Americans and white Americans were moving into the Midwest, into the Indian and Oklahoma territories, all vying for some patch of land they could call their own and live out their Jeffersonian view of independence, he said. The federal government poured a lot of effort and energy into the Dawn Commission, but at the same time, it was very hard for both Native and American governments to keep track of who was who. Do y'all see that? So they was trying to keep a track of who was who, but because of people claiming false things, it made it difficult. Like I said, what they said, Big Brother is always watching. Okay. The Dawn Commission set up tents in Indian Territory, said Bill Wedge, Director Emeritus of the Oklahoma Historical Society Office of America Indian Culture and Preservation. There, Phil Kurtz scored written records, took oral testimony, and generated enrollment cards for individuals determined to have Indian blood. That included authentic Indians, well said, but it also included lots of people with questionable heritage. Commissioners took advantage of their positions and enrolled people who have very minimal or questionable connections to the tribe, he said. They were not adverse to taking money under the table. Okay, so here's a picture of what that particular document looks like. It is the index to the final rolls of citizens and free men of the 5 civilized tribes in Indian Territory. It was prepared by the Commission and Commissioner to the 5 civilized tribes and approved by the Secretary of the Interior on or prior to March the 4th, 1907, and compiled and printed under authority conferred by the Act of Congress, approved June the 21st, 1906, 34 statute, law, or that's what L may mean, but L dot 325. Take this time now to pause the screen to read the print that was below that photo of that particular document. Now to the next paragraph. It says the implication of such shady practices are enormous now, Smither said. $5 Indians pass their unearned benefits to heirs who still lay claim to tribal citizenship and associate privileges. You want to highlight that for those who have a copy of that article. As you see, we have others benefiting either off of our identity, claiming it as their own, or benefiting from the privileges from their ancestors. And we know that their ancestors lied, stole, etc. Okay? Remember, these are characteristics of Satan, for he is the father of murderers, he is the father of lies, he is the father of thieves. Okay? Now we have people who are white, but who can trace their names back to the roles used by tribal nations to ascertain who has rights as citizens, he said. That means we have white people who have the ability to vote at large. It means political rights. It means the potential to influence tribal policy on a whole range of issues. It means people have access to health care, education, and employment. The implications are quite profound for people who got away with fraud. So they lied. And now you see the effect that it has on the indigenous people. On the flip side, while non-natives paid to play Indian, many authentic Indians who didn't trust the government chose not to register with the Dog Rolls at all, said Gene Norris, a genealogist at the Cherokee National Historical Society. That means people with legitimate claims to tribal enrollment and the benefits are now excluded. Again, the Europeans set these standards, and it's a shame that we have to go through this. Okay? They set the standards who are the indigenous people. They set the standards who are the Jews, etc. Okay? Native Americans are the only racial group defined by blood. You want to highlight that. So to be a native, to confirm that you are a Native American, you have to prove it by your blood, okay? An actual blood sample. That's what Norris said. Even that was arbitrary. In the 1890s, samplers who talked to different commissioners emerged with different blood quantum because they didn't apply together. Some of them have different blood degrees. In short, the Dawn Rose forever changed the way the federal government defined Indians, and in many cases, the way Indians still define themselves. In 1900, one woman registered on the rolls with 256 Cherokee blood. Do y'all see how small is that? Norris said. So we're going to try this again. As y'all see, I had another problem, but this time it wasn't technical. But let us get back on track. So as you see, to prove that you are indigenous to this land, you have to provide a blood sample. So the author of this article going to say, we in this paragraph right here, which is the one in the middle, it going to say that now some enrolled members of the Cherokee Nation have as little as 8,196 Indian blood. So it's like you can have a drop of indigenous blood in you, and that will qualify you to be indigenous to this land. Y'all, the living word makes this so simple. It goes by your father's side. Even the people of Somalia in the continent of Africa says that your tribe and nation is determined by your father's side. Even after the flood, when Noah's sons began to repopulate the earth, we see that the tribe and nation was determined by your father lineage. The father made this is so simple. And as I'm saying this, the father is letting me know to share with you, just as we see peoples of this earth have a right to know where they come from and who they are. Therefore, we have a right to know what tribe we come from, what nation we are from. Because when you read the Bible, it talks about nations and tribes. And it also talks about the children of Israel. And it talks about the two kingdoms becoming one. And it talks about what the 144,000 Israelites, and it named the tribe that they come from Jacob's sons. So if it's in the Bible, then we should have that right to know too. Now, for those who don't know where you come from, you can always pray in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach and wait on the Father to show you where you come from. Because I know everybody's situation is not the same. But when He leads and guides you, you cannot go wrong. All you need is what? Faith and works, and a heart that produces the 9 fruits of the Holy Spirit that comes from the Spirit of Yah, which is the Spirit of Messiah, Yahusha HaMashiach. So now let us read the 3rd paragraph. For the 3rd paragraph says that the dawn rose, even now, are a murky and very inaccurate gauge of Indian citizenship. And we see why. Because we got those perpetrating lying. He said, in the 2000 census, the number of people claiming Cherokee ancestry was 3 times that of official tribal enrollment. That's what's happened when the federal government established the rules, not the natives, he said. So again, this is by European standards. Smithers have no estimate of the number of people who've fraudulently registered on the Dawn Rolls or who lay false claims to the Indian citizenship now. But $5 Indians did not represent an isolated case of appropriations. What we had was simply white people claiming to be Indian, he said. They were early wannabes, just like we have today. $5 Indian is just another term for that. So that's a very interesting article. There was 2 other things I pull up that relates to this article that you can read in your spare time. Wikipedia has some information on this as well. We go to the top, and it's under Daros. And let me scroll down and see to see if there's anything pertinent I need to mention in this article. No, but this is something that you can read in your spare time. Okay. Another site that I found some interesting information is it was under the archives.gov, okay, under the category of research, which falls under Native Americans. And it's going to bring up Dawes records of the 5 civilized tribes. As we identified them before, I'm going to say it again, that the 5 civilized tribes that was identified in Dove records are Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. And these tribes were in Oklahoma. Okay? Take this time now to pause the screen to get that website link and to print out that information or review that information. Now for the juicy part. This is the part that y'all want to see what my DNA reveal. So before we get started, there is a word that we're going to have to know what the definition is. And this is the Pentateuch. Pentateuch, okay? And it means, okay, and it says Pentateuch. I came close. Pentateuch. It means it is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, which are Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Traditionally ascribed to Moses. Remember, he was the one who wrote those books when he was before the Most High present during the time when he was in the mountain for 40 daylights and 40 nights. Go back and read it. Traditionally ascribed to Moses, it is now held by scholars to be a compilation from texts of the 9th to 5th centuries BC. So that's mean before, in the Hebrews, not in the Hebrews, in the heathens' time, they would say before Christ. Okay. Another term they would use to mark an age of an era is BCE, before Common Era. Okay, so before the times of the Gentiles. Jewish name Torah. So when we look at this word here is Pentateuch. It comes from a late Middle English word, which comes from ecclesiastical Latin word, which comes from a ecclesiastical Greek word, which is Pentateuchos. I don't know if I said that correctly. Let me try to say it right. Penta, which means 5, Tuchos, which means implement, book. Okay, so as you see in the Romans kingdom, because we've been talking about what the makeup of the beast kingdom, right? We see that Rome and the Greeks go hand in hand, for they are cousins. They was created by the children of Edom, Esau, mixing with the sons of Japheth. So those 2 nations came later in the earth. They're not a nation of antiquities. Even the workers Josephus would definitely confirm that the Greeks are not a nation of antiquities. But you would learn that even when the Roman Empire came forth and took over the Greeks, in other words, the Greeks' kingdom now became client kings unto them. The Roman even looked at the Greek language as being prestigious. This is why in the Bible, when you look up barbarian, one of the definition of barbarian means one who could not speak Greek. So I'm just giving you a little hint why we see not only Roman things in this kingdom, but we also see Greek things as well. For those 2 nations are cousins. They are closely related. This is why for the World Council of Churches, they have a Greek word which is okaneme, which means uh, Roman Empire or the earth or the world. But we do know it really, really stands for Roman Empire. When you do your research and you understand the four beasts that Daniel talks about, which relates to Nebuchadnezzar's image. For we're now at the feet, for those who've been studying along with me with Yah's timeline and looking at those end time prophecies. Okay? So very important. So basically was Pentateuch means the first five books of the Bible, which is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Okay? So now we're going to get into my DNA. So when I looked at my DNA makeup, when it came back into me, it revealed the components that comes from my mom's side, which you see here, and what comes in my dad's side, my earthly parents, okay? Which you see here. And looking at the whole component of my DNA, because what they did, they combined what comes from my mom and my dad together, showing you what makes me up. What am I today in its wholeness? Okay. So when you look at my DNA, 75% of my DNA come from the people in Africa. Okay. 1% of my DNA comes from the country India. And then the 24% of my DNA come from European countries. And as I'm studying the history of my ancestors, some was from slavery, and then some can be from when they would work for their owners. Because most of the time, my people can only get work by working for Europeans. Okay. Now, what I like about this website here, I'm going to move this up higher. Let me see, can I get this stuff out the way? There we go. And I'm going to move, let's see here. Let me do this. As you see, some I always want to, there we go. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so we can see. So here on this site, they give you a key of what the color represent. And what it's saying unto me, when my parents came together, I got a certain portion from my mom and from my dad, my earthly parents. And they add those portions together, and that's how they form this circle of what my DNA shows. Okay. So, what my DNA shows is that from both of my parents, as you see, majority of my DNA comes from Benin and Togo, and that was 21%. Benin and Togo. As you see, both of my parents have DNA from the people who come from Benin and Togo. So you definitely want to highlight that because in the title I talk about um, Benin. Benin. And then also from both of my parents, which is represented by blue, both of them have that DNA, and that comes from Nigeria. So as you see, the next one that comes in line, which is that, make sure I'm looking at this right, 18%. Nigeria is 18%. Okay. So as you see, both of my parents have DNA that comes from that area. Then the next thing that come in line is the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast is at 14% for me. That is the orange area. And as you see, both my parents have DNA from that area as well. Then the next one is dealing with England and Northwestern Europe. England and Northwestern Europe. For me, I have a total of 14% of that DNA. So I do have relatives in England and Northwestern Europe, which is expected because of slavery and also because of what happened to my ancestors too, who worked for the Europeans. Sometimes you have things that go on between the boss and the workers. Okay. And I'm still doing more research on that. But I do understand why that's in my DNA. Okay. So looking at England and Northwestern Europe, okay, that's this color here. You can see it's in both of my parents' DNA. And I know why it's more on my mom's side than on my dad's side. Okay. Like I said, I'm just still doing more research. And once I get some more information, I'm going to come back and share. Okay. The next one is looking at Western Bantu peoples. Western Bantu people, I have 6% of DNA. That's my total. 6% of DNA. As you see, that DNA is present on both my parents' side, but my mom has more than my dad. Okay. That's the Western Bantu peoples. Now, when we look at Mali, this is this color here, kind of like a turquoise green. Okay. That DNA for me total is 5%. And when I look at my parents, both of them has that DNA more on my dad's side than on my mom's side. Okay. The next DNA is Wales. Wales is also dealing with a European country. The total amount of DNA I have from that area is 5%. Okay. And Wales is more of a blue from what I see. Okay. So the next one would be this color. My mom has that DNA, and I'm trying to see if my dad has it. Yes, he has it too. So it's about equal amounts, close to being equal. Let me bring this down a little bit. So let me put my indicator here so I know where I'm at. Now, Senegal. Senegal, I have 4% of DNA from that country. That country is in Africa as well. And looking at the color here, it's kind of like I know it's kind of like in the pinks and red family. And then as I look at my parents, making sure that I don't skip a color. Okay, I see that color. So I see that color on my mom's side right here. If I'm not jumping colors, yeah, I see that color on my mom's side. And but according to my eyesight, make sure I'm not jumping. So we talked about whales. Yeah, I saw whales in both of them. Next color is Senegal. That's besides whale. Okay, that color is Senegal is in both my parents' DNA. Okay. Senegal is in both my parents' DNA. Now, when we look at Scotland, Scotland is 4% and it's going to be purple. As you see for me, it is 4% in my DNA. And when we look at my parents, my mom has a small percentage of Scotland in her DNA. But with my dad, with my dad, let me see here. See, from looking at this, make sure my eyes is not jumping. Okay, we got blue, we got that color, then purple. So we had, I know it's kind of hard when I'm looking at it because some DNA my parents share and some they do not share. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure. So I know this is Senegal. Next is Scotland, which is the purple one. Okay, we got Senegal, Scotland, which is purple, and I'm just gonna have to come back to y'all on that one when I look at my dad's side. Now, when we are looking at Central West Africa, okay, Central West Africa, I have 3% of that DNA in my blood. And looking at my parents' side, okay, now I see Scotland and also in my dad's DNA. So it looks like my dad have more Scotland in his blood than my mom's. Now, looking at Central West Africa, it seems like that comes from my dad's side. So that's in my dad's DNA and not in my mom's DNA. Now, when we look at Cameroon, I have 2% of the people of Cameroon DNA in my blood, and that looked like a greenish color here, like a teal green color here. And again, that's 2%. And if my eyes are not mistaken me wrong, I do not see that in my mom's side. Okay. And this is the color I'm talking about, Cameroon right here. Then next is Central West, no, Central Nigeria. I have 1% of that, which is kind of blue right here. And from looking at my parents, that is on my dad's side, Central Nigeria, 1%. Now, when we look at Nigerian woodlands, I have 1% of DNA. Okay, that's up here. And looking at my parents, that comes from my dad's side. Okay, with Nigerian woodlands, that's 1%. Make sure I got it right. I see light blue. Okay, light blue. And then this color here. Okay, the Nigerian woods which is like a brownish color. My eyes are jumping. So forgive me on that one. It's really hard for me to tell right now because I'm trying to look at mine and then go and see which parent. But from what I see and the color, let me go back here. I know this is Central Nigeria. The next one is Nigerian wood. It looks more like on my mom's side. Nigerian wood is on my mom's side right here. Now, when we look at Southern India, I have 1% of DNA that comes from my people over there, and that comes on my mom's side. Wow. And then when we look at Ireland, I have 1% of DNA that comes from Ireland, and that comes from my dad's side. Okay. Very interesting. So when I look at the different countries, and yeah, there are some other DNA that I had learned that is not uh, labeled, but anyway, we'll get to that when we get down to it. So when we look at the countries of my ancestors, when we look at the continent of Africa, like I said, 75% of my DNA comes from the continent of Africa, especially on the West Coast, which is very important because that's where a lot of the slaves was brought from. Okay, my people. All right. Excuse me. Sorry about that, y'all. And then I have 1% of DNA that comes from India, and then 24% that comes from the European country, which is Ireland, Wales, and England, and Northwest Europe. Okay. They also would give you your ancestral journeys, like where did your people travel to, and get an idea where they live, and a lot of that is matching up. And the reason why I know my father's dream is true because in one of the counties where my grandmother people come to, that's where we get into the Indian. That's where we get into the indigenous people. So that's like I said, I know it's more that has to be added to learning who I am and who is my tribe and who is my nation and also who is my kinsman as well. So that site will show you that as well. Now here's the part that I'm talking about. This is dealing with the chromosomes, um, grafting right here, and they give you the color screen and what the color screen and what the colors represent. So they show like 22 chromosomes. And this is a part that I'm telling you about that it is part of my chromosome that is not tested and that is not assigned. So they too are probably doing more research and testing other tribes and nations to identify those chromosomes. Okay. For example, when you go back up to the map, like in chromosome 13, you see part of it not being identified. So either it wasn't tested or it wasn't assigned. You also see it in 14 and 15 right here in this area, as well as in 21 and 22. Okay, right in this area. And Even at it's kind of hard to see here, even at the end of that chromosome, there's some chromosomes that has not been tested or identified. Now for the juicy part. So majority of my DNA that I received from both my parents is that is very strong in Benin and Togo. That's 21%. Then the second one that come in line is Nigeria, and that is 18%. And then what come in third in line, which is a tie, we have 14% of Ivory Coast and Ghana. Okay. And we know Ghana has also had one of the ports where my people was taken as slaves. And then from that third place that's tied in with Ivory Coast and Ghana is the 14% of DNA that I have from England and Northwestern Europe. Okay. So now let's get to the juicy part. Benin. And when I read this, it explains a lot about my gifts and why I see these gifts in my families, even why they call my birth father the preacher, um, why we also have the gift of prophecy, as well as two birth markings. Yeah. So let's get right into it. The title of this site is Jews Were Here, and it comes from JewsWereHere.com. All right. Take this time to pause the video to get this link. But it says here, when we look at Benin, Benin is located between Ghana and Togo. When you're facing it, it'd be to your left. And on the right side of Benin is Nigeria. And what's above Benin is Burkina Faso. That's a very interesting country. You want to check out the leader and what he's. Anyway, I don't want to get into the governments and politics, but that's a very interesting country, Burkina Faso. So it is above Benin, and then the next one that's above Benin is Niger. Niger. Now, you probably saying, what's so special about Benin? Here's the proof. The city of Ouidah, Judah, is on the coast of Benin, formerly Dahomey. Do y'all hear that? Benin is known as the place where you will find the city of Judah, Yahudah. That explains to me why I had a dream where I roared as a lion when facing a demonic spirit. Because at first I was said to myself, I thought I was misinterpreting it, but actually the Father let me know I interpret the dream correctly. The internet keeps coming in and out, but however, this will be done. Okay. So that's where the city of Judah is. It's in the country of Benin. Okay. So let me go here, not this one, not that one. I think I had something with, now you know this is the enemy, but in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, Father will be done. Father will be done. Let me see what's going on here. If not, I can read my printed out copy until y'all while we waiting for this to come up. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. Let's see here. This one. Yeah, it's the internet. Hmm. Oh, thank you, Father. So now it's the internet that want to mess up. I got to find that article. I don't know what the internet just did, but I'm gonna put it on pause for a second. Okay. Yeah. Let me put this on a pause. Let me see. Let's see when it let me put it on a pause. Mm-mm. All right. Let me try here. Here we go. As y'all see, it don't want me to get this out, but here we go. So in 1926, there was a large Hebrew community of what they want to say black Jews in Benin, West Africa. Here they go with that byword and proverb because they don't believe that we are the children of Israel. When the Bible would prove it so. Okay. So in 1926, there was a large Hebrew community of black Jews in Benin, West Africa. They had a central temple and a Pentateuch written in Hebrew. So remember that word I took y'all to get the definition of. So they had a temple in the center of it, and they had Torah that was written in Hebrew, which is the first five books. In their temple are found many laws engraved on tablets, which are attached to the temple walls. They had a high priest with a large number of priestly families whose members walked from house to house, rendering educational and religious instructions to each family of the community. Now you see where I get my gift for teaching. It's not only passed by blood, but by the Spirit. The Spirit of Yah has to open these things up, okay? But you see, there's a thing is passed through my ancestral lineage, okay? Now it explains a lot. So I won't be surprised I have kinship not only to the tribe of Judah, but also to the tribe of Levi. Okay? Because then when you read past documents, it's like Joseph and Mary, um, like Mary's parents, there is a history of the children of Levi marrying to the children of Judah. On the 21st of June, 1962, a shipment consisting of 400 tons of rice and sugar was loaded abroad an Israeli freighter at Haifa as a gift from Israel to the famine-stricken people of Dahomey at that time. Y'all need to underline that. So the Jewish people had knowledge of my people in the continent of Africa. Notice how they were sending them aid. The African Republic ambassador Jean-Baptiste Marquis attended a ceremony aboard the ship, formally accepting the gift on behalf of his government. And I'm saying to myself, wow. And this is in my DNA, 21%. Wow. Let's go to the next article. The history of Jews in Benin. This is Wikipedia. Take this time to pause your screen to get that website link. It says the history of the Jews in Benin, formerly known as Dahomey in Africa, is recent and contemporary Jewish community in Benin is very small. That's what they want to say. But we know what effect slavery had on my people. For the living word say that the children of Israel will be like the sand of the sea and the stars of the heaven. We do not take a census of ourselves. It is forbidding. It is against the law of Yah. Remember what happened to King David. But let us go on to read. It says history. In the 19th century, that was with the 1800s, the French Catholic missionary of Paris, Bertrand Bouch, observed customs in Dahomey such as circumcision and seclusion of menstruating women that he termed Judaic practices, believing them to be of Jewish origin. So remember, before the influence of the Jewish people, my people follow Torah. It is a big difference from Talmud. So what I'm telling you today, what I'm telling you now, Judaism of today deals with the Talmud, the Kabbalah, those things that go against Yah. But my people in the continent of Africa was found keeping the ways of Torah, the Bible, the first 5 books. It is a big difference. And you're going to see why as we read these articles. A 1926 report published by the Jewish scholar Janus Capel claimed that a large community of Black Jews exists in the interior of Dahomey. Underline that. So in this part, it's saying it's a large number of us in 1926. According to Capel, these Black Jews had their own central temple where they sacrificed animals, and laws were engraved on tablets that was hung on the temple walls. A book titled Dahomey and the Lost Jews was written by George Amarco in 2017 AD. So that's not too long. This is what, 2025? So that's 8 years ago. Again, it's giving you more proof and evidence who we are. In 1929, the imposter Beta Bongola published a book claiming to be a Beninese Jew descended from a lost tribe of Israel in Dahomey. Bongola true identity was Joseph Howard Lee, an African American entertainer from Baltimore. Now that I question, because we as African Americans, so Black Americans, that is not our true identity. We are not a crayon color. Okay. The word Negro, mulatto, color are bywords and proverbs. We have a nation. We have a tribe. We have a country that we come from. So that is questionable what is written in this paragraph. Because we all know the majority of us was not here in this land. Okay? Southern Kingdom, which is Judah, was brought over here by slave ships. Same thing with the indigenous people, the people who I have kinship to. The Europeans also moved them from the Americas to the European countries. Some of us. So like I said, we have to go in history deeper and get the whole truth. So I do question that paragraph dealing with that gentleman's true identity. Okay. In 2016 article in the Times of Israel, so this is in the Times of Israel, y'all, listen up, reported that internet searches were connecting isolated Jewish communities across Africa including Benin. So this is proof that the children of Israel who live in the continent of Africa, they are there, and they're not white. They are melanated peoples. And the world has a hard time accepting this because you only been shown one particular people who are Jewish. You have not been shown the Jews. You have not been shown the Hebrews slash Israelites slash children of Israel. Now, this is dealing with Benin and Israel relation. It said in 1961, Benin, then known as Dahomey, established full diplomatic relations with Israel. Foreign relations of Benin diplomatic relations, and signed a friendship treaty and technical assistance treaty with Israel. So they've been knowing about us since 1961. But yet, when we claim our identity in the Americas, they want to laugh at us when they had knowledge that the children of Israel was in Africa. Y'all, this is the proof. The treaties were signed by Dahomey Farming Minister Asagba Oki and Israel trained minister Pinhas Rosen, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, and Dahomey President Hubert Maga signed the joint statement. Dahomey President and entourage will finish tomorrow an 8-day visit, which will include a dinner tendered them by Israeli President, I'm not going to try to say that name, YBZ. So they've been having knowledge of my people, but won't tell us who we are. Now when you start believing the Bible, let us keep going. Now we're going to look at my people who are in Nigeria, for I have 18% of DNA that comes from the people in that country. The history of the Jews in Nigeria. The history of the Jews in Nigeria is a complex subject. It's not complex. They just don't want the world to believe that the children of Israel are melanated people. The Living Word says that the Jews, the Israelites, have black hair or white hair. Matthew chapter 5, verse 36. Leviticus chapter 13 or chapter 14. Oh, yeah. And our hair is like wool or like sheep. This is why our hair texture is different from many other peoples in this earth, for we bear the Father and the Son's image. We got too much evidence. Then when you look at our father's name, Adam, Adam comes from a clay that is named Adamah. And that clay is pure virgin red clay that has a hue of reddish brown. Look at a red heifer and you will see it. And you will see that same hue in most of my people. They had that reddish brown hue. And then when people want to be funny about Noah, then you haven't read the Song of Solomon in chapter 5, verse 10, when it said white and ruddy. And even the word ready, redder than a blossom robe means ruddy. When you look it up in the Hebrew, it talks about Sach and the Hebrew word for ready. I think it might be Adam. When you look up, see what those Hebrew words mean. White means to illuminate, like the lights in the heaven, which is Sach. Adam or ready means to be reddish brown. So no more lies. No more lies. Okay? It says here the historic presence of Judaism in Nigeria is a cause of debate, and you're gonna find out why. as there are several Judeo-oriented religious groups among the largest ethnic groups. When they say ethnic, they're talking about melanated peoples now. And the largely populated nation, you have to understand the European code words. Okay? The groups claim that their religious practices result either from hundreds of years of continuous practice of Judaic or Judaic-like customs by their ethnic groups, custom inherited from the Jews of, of Bilad el Sudan, or by a more recent departure from Europe Christianity to modern Judaism. Either way, Judaism in Nigeria has developed demographically with the interest of Jewish peoples in other countries, especially Israel and the United States. So it's all been proof that America and the Jewish people of Israel has been going into Africa looking for the children of Israel. Proof is what? Limbus. We already got proof that the Jews of Ethiopia are from the tribe of Dan. And look how they're treated in the land of Israel with racism, prejudice. Look how they was prevented from having children. Oh yeah, what you see in America is over there too. Let us continue to read. Rabbi Israel Uzan, a leader in the alliance of rabbis in Islamic states, served as the chief rabbi of Nigeria and the Chabad representative in Abuja or Abuja. Yeah, Abuja. Forgive my tongue, y'all. Rabbi Mendal Sternbat serves as Rabbi of Lagos. They are involved in humanitarian aid, especially prior to Ramadan. Igbo Jews. The Igbo Jews of Nigeria are one of the components of Igbo people. So that's also in my bloodline because when I click on these different countries, it shows the other ethnic groups that I could be tied to, and one of them was the Igbos. Okay. It says the Igbo Jews of Nigeria are one of the components of the Igbo people. Certain Nigerian communities with Judaic practices have been receiving help from individual Israelis and American Jews who work in Nigeria. Underline that, y'all. Outreach organizations like Kulanu and African American Jewish communities in America. Jews from outside Nigeria found 2 synagogues in Nigeria, which are attended and maintained by the Igbo. And there is an Igbo on YouTube, and I have his, I'm subscribed to him, and he's too telling us who we are in America. We're not black. We're not African Americans. We are the children of Israel. Even some of the indigenous people over here are the children of Israel, and they are of the northern kingdom. We got too much evidence, y'all, proving who we are. Okay, because no formal census have been taken in the region. Notice what I say about census. We don't do that. The number of Igbos in Nigeria who identify as Israelites or Jews is not known. It's because we are forbidden to do that. There are currently 26 synagogues of various sizes. An estimated 4,000 Igbos were practicing some form of Judaism in 2016. Some synagogues in Nigeria include CHW, known as Community of Hashem. Hashem means the name. So Community of Hashem worldwide, with several synagogues around Nigeria and some part of Cameroon. As y'all see, I have DNA that goes to Cameroon, which explains I am a Jew. I'm definitely a Jew. And I have 2% of DNA that comes from Cameroon. It makes sense. Okay. Let me go on to read this one. Aqua, Embalm, and Cross River Jews. The A word and the A word, E word, and I word people of Aqua, Embalm, and Cross River states of Nigeria had ancient religious practices that strongly resemble some of the Jewish Torah. Like I say, y'all, there's a difference between those who kept Torah and those who practiced Judaism that involves keeping Talmud. These includes their traditional sacrifice of animals, rituals by the presiding male of each village or of a group of villages for purification, especially during times of sickness. They have active synagogues, with majority of the synagogues in the eastern part of the country, a vibrant one in Abijah, supported and provided with many Jewish materials by different rabbi, rab, rabbis. Sorry, y'all. Rabbis. There are also key synagogues in Port Harcourt and Lagos. Very interesting. Explains a lot. Now we're going to look at The Guardian. Take this time to pause your screen to get the link to this site. It is theguardian.com. The title of this article is The Lost Jews of Nigeria. The article is about more than 2 years old. Here, let me see here. It's showing you a picture of my people over there. And this article, I'm not going to read it word for word because it is a long article, but it was published on Tuesday, the 26th of April in the year of 2022 AD at 1 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So I'm not going to read this word for word, but I just want to point some things out to you that when we look at these different countries, you will see and you will learn that the children of Israel live in these countries. So Deuteronomy 28 is true. Very true. And when it says you have no one to buy you, when you go back and you look at the language, it means you have no one to redeem you. Go back and study Jubilees and Torah. You will learn that when one Israelite or Jew is a slave or servant, his fellow brethren can purchase him out of that servitude. Like I said, it's a lot of things that we have not been taught correctly in the West. Okay. Here in this picture, you see worshipers in the Aaron HaKodesh synagogue, photographed by Emiki Obanor of The Guardian. Here's another picture of Eben Cohen, who teaches Hebrew across Nigeria. Very interesting. Okay. Then here we have a picture of Jewish diaspora in Nigeria during the Passover. In this picture, you have Cantor reciting the Brikas Hamazon after meal prayer. And in this photo, we have Namdi Kanu, who's in the center. He's the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB in Umuahia, Southeast Nigeria in 2017. Okay. Even you can see fringes in his garments too. So when y'all get a chance, check this article out. Now here in this article title, well, the title of this site is the Jewish Federation of the Berkshire. If you want to go to this site, just go to jewishberkshires.org. Okay. Now the title of this article is Lost and Found: The Jews of Nigeria. This is by Karen Goodman Kaufman, special to BJV, written on September the 15th in the year of 2020 AD. The article going to say, but Mom, he's Jewish. That was the very catchy title of a program hosted by my Hadass chapter in San Francisco. In San Francisco, forgive my tongue, y'all. Unfortunately, I got stuck in traffic on the Oakland Blade Bridge and never got to hear the talk. But the idea that there was Jews other than the ones I've grown up with, white and mostly Ashkenaz, fascinated me. So again, we've only been pushed to one type of Jewish people or one type of look. Many people are fascinated that the children of Israel are melanated people. Okay. Among the joys of travel is the opportunity to enjoy the natural beauty, culture, life, and unique food ways of these places. And when Joel and I travel, we always look for Jewish site. So I want to so that so they want so I'm going to skip down a couple paragraphs, but as you read in the paragraphs above, they begin to explore the Jewish life in Africa. Okay. I'm going to start in this paragraph here. After the Syrian route of Israel, one of the direction the refugees headed was southwest. Before there was nation states on the African continent, there were tribes. Do y'all hear that? Tribes. It was in several of those tribes in what is now Nigeria. So again, my people follow the Bible. We don't follow the ways of the heathen or the ways of the Gentiles. So that's why I'm saying we have the right to know who our tribe is and who our nation is. Where did we come from? That is our right. And if you don't know where, pray unto the Father, and He will help you to know these things. Okay? Starting back up here. And it was into several of those tribes in what is now Nigeria that some exiled Jews assimilated, marrying and having children. They want to say that anyway, their skin pigmentation didn't change, y'all. The Yoruba Jews, numbering around 2,000, called themselves the B word Ephraim, which means children of Ephraim, as they believed that they are descendants from the tribe of that name. Notice how my people can tell you what tribe of the children of Israel they came from versus the Jewish. Okay. And the A word and the E word and the I word peoples also have ancient religious practices similar to those in what? The Torah. The largest group of Nigerian Jews is made up of members of Igbo tribe. While missionaries converted most of the Igbo tribe to Christianity in the 19th century, so that was in the 1800s, and a small minority became Muslim in the 20th century, so that's the 1900s. The proud Igbo Jews never forgot their origins. This is again Deuteronomy 8, the wood and the stone, right? The intriguing documentary Re-Emerging The Jews of Nigeria follow the Jews of the Igbo tribe and their dedication to the faith of their ancestors. In the course of the film, a couple of the Igbo Jews recalled their parents telling them that they were descended from the Hebrews long ago. Support for their belief came from an unusual source. One, Aliyah Equiano was an 18th century Igbo, that's in the 1700s, who had been captured and sold as a slave in the Caribbean. He ultimately won his freedom and settled in London, and in 1789, Equiano published his autobiography, in which he cited evidence that his tribe was descended from the Jews of Israel. He wrote, and I quote, "The strong and the glory, and the strong analogy which appears to prevail in the manners and custom of my countrymen and those of the Jews, before they reached the land of promise, and particularly the patriarchs while they were yet in the pastoral state which is described in Genesis, an analogy which alone would induce me to think that the one people have sprung from the other. Given that the Igbo Jews arrived in Africa centuries before the Talmud was compiled, underline that, y'all. So my people follow Torah. They didn't follow Talmud. Okay? That comes from the Pharisees. But what you see here, those who migrated to Africa follow Torah. So this is very important. Underline this. Given that the Igbo Jews arrived in Africa a century before Talmud was compiled, they neither knew about nor followed rabbinic law. Rabbinic laws come from the Pharisees. And that rabbinic law is the same thing that the Jewish people of the country of Israel follow. But their religious practice includes circumcision on the 8th day after the birth of a boy, observance of the K word and the N word, wearing of talit and kappa, and celebration of holidays like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. Coincidence? I don't think so, y'all. While some Igbos have made Aliyah to Israel, a strong and growing community remains in Nigeria. So the way this is written, it sounds like they made a pilgrimage to Israel, right? So some Igbos have made an aliyah to Israel. A strong and growing community remains in Nigeria, served by an eye-popping 26 synagogues. Y'all hear that? They have 26 synagogues with population estimates ranging wildly from 3,000 to 30,000 Jews. And every year, more Igbo convert to Judaism. To the four corners of the earth, indeed. So much of Jewish history involves quest and exile. But those many exiles have produced an amazing, diverse, international family tree. Yeah, they're amazed. And now you see why they call it diverse. But when you go in the Bible and you get the true physical characteristics of the antiquity of what the Jews look like, they are melanated people with black or white hair, and the texture of their hair was like wool or sheep hair texture. It's there in the Bible. All right, that completes this article. And now for this last one right here, this is dealing with Ra Online Library.willy.com. And the title of this particular word is Nigerian Igbo Jews, Jewish Identity and Practice in Abuja. I can finally say that word. Here's the abstract of this work. The now widespread Igbo belief in a Jewish ancestry goes back to the 18th century. However, It was during and after the Nigerian Civil War, 1967 to 1970, 3 years, in which at least 1 million Igbos died in the failed bid for Biafran independence. That Igbo identification with and as Jews concretized, Igbos saw themselves as sufferers of genocide. This don't surprise me. They've always been trying to kill our people. Like the Jews of World War II in Europe, as inhabitants of a belligerent plot of land surrounded by hostile forces. Similar to the state of Israel, the Civil War and its disastrous consequence initiate a still ongoing period of intense questioning among the Igbo concerning their history, present present predicaments, and future prospects. A small number of Igbos began to question why, if they were in fact Jews, they should continue practicing Christianity. Their community now numbers between 2,000 and 5,000 people throughout Nigeria. Like I said, these numbers going to vary a lot because my people don't do census. Okay? As a nation of people, when you read the Bible. There are 3 established Nigerian synagogues in Abuja, the federal capital, most of whose members are Igbo. Now, we just read in another article how many synagogues are there total in Nigeria, so keep that in mind. The significance of Biafra, the centrality of the state of Israel, pride in Jewish ancestry and practice, and questions surrounding the range of Jewish skin color predominate in Igbo Jews' discussion of their identity. Again, the world cannot believe that the Jews are melanated people based on what's been taught or presented before the world. In contrast to the vast majority of Igbo who, if they maintain a sense of Jewish identity, do so while practicing Christianity, Igbo Jews have severed themselves from the now dominant religion. What's the now dominant religion? Christianity. Understanding themselves to be part of the global Jewish community of the diaspora and the state of Israel, the Igbo practice Judaism in Nigeria are eager for religious and political recognition from the world Jewry and the Jewish state. So they feel like if they convert, they should get recognized by the state of Israel that they are Jews. Again, now you understand why you're seeing certain things they are partaking now. But before, they only did the practice of Torah. Okay? However, self-identity Jewish groups without documented historical connections to more established Jewish communities face considerable challenges in gaining such recognition, particularly as genealogical Jews. So now you see it's different when it comes to my people. But when you read about the father out of Indian, there's no question asked on that part. Do y'all see the double standards? And when you study history of my people, a lot of them had to flee for their lives. So anyway, don't want to get off topic. I provided these articles to show to you who my people are. And my DNA confirm it, y'all. And my DNA reveals something special too. 21% of my DNA that I received from my father and my mother added together shows that I have kinship to the tribe of Judah and to the tribe of Levi. And I have a feeling that as I do more research about my ancestry lineage, I have a feeling that it's going to confirm that we are royalty. And we have a great part to play in the body of the Messiah. We're dealing with the teachings, the preachings of his word. So I want to thank you for taking time to hear my testimony on who I am. The Father first confirmed it by his word and by many other testimonies. He also confirmed it by history, and now he has confirmed it by my DNA. I am a Jew. I'm an Israelite. I'm a Hebrew that believes in the Messiah, who is too from the tribe of Judah, and he too is an Israelite. Continue, my brothers and sisters, to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's true at hand. Make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10. Now, if you have no one to baptize you, you can baptize yourself, there where you exercise faith with works. For the water, who's the second witness in the earth, and the heavens and earth can witness on your behalf to our Father in heaven that you have came into the renewed covenant, into the renewed marriage that our blessed Messiah has established for us. And the same is with the Holy Spirit baptism. If you have no righteous apostle near you to give you the Holy Spirit baptism, then you can ask our Father in heaven in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach to give you the Holy Spirit baptism, and he will give it unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your works. Love you all, and shalom.